You were taught that the path to respect is paved with explanations. Explain your intentions so they won't misjudge you. Explain your efforts so they won't ignore you. Explain your boundaries so they won't call you selfish. Explain your mistakes so they will forgive you. But look at the scoreboard. The more you explained, the less control you had. Doors didn't open faster. They opened when someone else decided your explanation was finally acceptable. Meetings didn't end sooner. They expanded to swallow your apologies. Your calendar didn't clear. It metastasized around every clarification you offered. And when it mattered most, when pay, power, and permission were allocated, explanations didn't buy you leverage. They bought you a label: agreeable, compliant, available. Explanations are not a currency of control. They are evidence you believe permission still lives outside you. Stop explaining. Start controlling. That sentence will save you years if you let it. Not because you'll become rude or cold, but because you'll stop paying a tax that produces no wealth. Explanations feel virtuous. They feel like transparency, like fairness, like diplomacy. But the psychology underneath is simple. You are trying to manage other people's nervous systems so they will leave you alone while you do what you know you must. You are trying to hand-feed certainty to those who benefit from keeping you uncertain. Control does not live there. Control lives where your decisions are legible, your standards are visible, and your silence is heavier than their demands. What if everything you've been taught about being reasonable was a beautifully packaged leash? From the moment you were old enough to sign your name, you were trained to narrate yourself to earn safety. Here's why I'm late. Here's why I need this. Here's why I'm saying no. It worked in classrooms where adults controlled the bell. It works in bureaucracies that reward obedience over outcomes. But in rooms where power is actually allocated, explanations are noise. The people who assign resources listen for one sound: control. Do you control your time, or does the room control you? Do you control your words, or do your words chase approval? Do you control the frame, or are you explaining yourself inside someone else's story? There is a colder truth beneath the comfort of context. Explanations signal weakness because they confess dependency. If your boundary requires their understanding, you don't have a boundary. You have a request dressed as a paragraph. If your price requires their sympathy, you don't have a price, you have a wish pinned to a mood. If your schedule requires their blessing, you don't have a schedule. You have a wish list they can edit. The people who are actually dangerous to systems never argue their worth. They design conditions in which their worth is obvious, expensive, and hard to replace. They do not go to war with perception. They build a world where perception has to catch up or move aside. But won't people think I'm arrogant if I stop explaining? Some will. The ones who were fed by your need to be understood will call it cruelty when you decide to be clear. Let them. High-clarity behavior looks like arrogance to those who prefer the fog. A surgeon is not rude for saying scalpel. A pilot is not cold for saying we divert. The sentence "no thanks" is not violence. It is the sound of a person who understands that control requires energy, and energy is finite, and paragraphs spend it faster than decisions earn it back. Control does not mean domination. It means authorship. It means you stop renting your life to other people's interpretations. You will still make room for nuance and care, but you will stop performing it like theater. Explanations are theater. Control is architecture. Let's reset the map. First principle: explanations inflate when you fear loss. You fear losing affection, status, opportunity, the fragile image of being easy. So you overtalk to plug the imagined holes. Power does the opposite. It shrinks language to what is enforceable. One sentence beats one page if the sentence sets the rule. I'm not available on weekends. That is a rule. Weekends are difficult because my family has needs and I'm juggling a lot, and I hope you understand, and I'll try to make it up to you on Monday. That is an invitation to negotiation. Which one does a predator prefer? The second. Which one does a professional respect? The first. Second principle, control is a function of design, not debate. Your calendar is more persuasive than your email. Your contract is more persuasive than your charisma. Your default processes, your decision windows, your pricing tables, your escalation ladders, all of them either force reality to behave or force you to explain why reality didn't. If you need fewer explanations, you don't need stricter speeches. You need stronger defaults. Decide once, upstream, so you don't bleed downstream. Third principle, silence is not absence, it is pressure. When you stop rushing to fill every discomfort with words, you discover how quickly other people will reveal their hand. Ask a clean question. What outcome makes this a win in 30 days? Then shut up. In the silence, watch fear, bluff, clarity, or competence surface. Ask a clean boundary. That scope sits in phase 2. Then shut up. In the silence, watch entitlement, reason, or respect surface. Every extra sentence you add to soften your line cuts its tensile strength in half. Steel becomes ribbon at the speed of an apology. Fourth principle, speed comes from fewer moves, not more motion. You think explaining will accelerate approval. It doesn't. It creates new surfaces for resistance. The fastest path through a room is 3 moves. Define, decide, document. Define the frame in one breath. Decide what you will and won't do. Document the path and go. Every extra loop, every just to add some color, every to be fair, every for context, is a detour for cars you don't control. They will park on your lawn, and you will spend your afternoon handing out polite tickets they do not intend to pay. Fifth principle, be readable in code, not in confession. Your values should be obvious from your systems, not your speeches. If someone has to ask, "Are you serious about focus?" after looking at your calendar, the calendar is lying. If someone has to ask, "Do you really value quality?" after reading your contract, the contract is lying. If someone has to ask, "Do you mean it?" after hearing your price, the price is lying. Codes are how high-control people translate intention into policy. A code makes explanation redundant. We never ship without test coverage. Done. We don't argue scope in delivery. Done. We don't respond to non-urgent messages after 7 p.m. Done. A code is cruel to ambiguity and kind to everyone's nervous system. It replaces 1,000 little frictions with 10 clear rails. Those rails are not apologies. They are the terms of reality in your orbit. You'll feel the withdrawals in week 1. The impulse to narrate will itch in your throat. You'll want to justify the no. You'll want to list 3 reasons for the price. You'll want to explain why you're not in the meeting. Resist. Replace the paragraph with structure. Replace the apology with a policy. Replace the performance with a plan. People don't need to understand you to respect you. They need to see what happens when someone disrespects your terms and what happens when they honor them. Consequences and rewards do more for culture than explanations ever will. Stop explaining is not a slogan. It is a logistics problem. Let me show you how control looks when it lands in the smallest units of your day. You start by controlling time, not with productivity porn, with refusal. You refuse to be available at the speed of other people's anxiety. You create decision windows, 2 blocks per week for approvals, 2 blocks per day for communication, 1 weekly block for deep, non-negotiable work. Everything else waits. You tell the world once, and you enforce it forever. Do people test it? Yes. Does it cost you some opportunities? Yes, the ones that would have bankrupted your future self. Time is an ecosystem. Explanation is a pesticide that kills the insects but poisons the river. Control is biodiversity. Each block has a purpose. Each no keeps the predators in check. Then you control scope. You define outcomes, acceptance criteria, and change procedures before the first hour of work begins. You put the rules where the heat will be. All additions go to phase 2 or reprice at the same unit rate. Later, when just one small thing arrives, you don't explain stress or fairness or effort. You point at the rail and keep moving. Control doesn't scold, it routes. If the other party respects the route, you keep building. If they don't, the project is saving you from a longer, louder failure. Either way, you didn't bleed in paragraphs. You won in process. You control communication, you select channels, you decide response SLAs, you forbid drive-by decisions in chat that cost you 3 weeks of cleanup. You do not explain why Slack is noisy or why email threads rot. You write a one-pager. We use chat for coordination, docs for decisions, and email only for external summaries. Decisions live here. Then you enforce it. Who breaks it? The same people who used to demand explanations when chaos broke your week. What do they do when the chaos dies? They either rise into your discipline or rage their way into someone else's feed. Either outcome is a win. You control negotiation. You anchor scope, not feeling. You reframe category, not morality. You trade concessions on a ladder you designed before the call. You use silence. You ask contingent questions. You do not explain your price. You demonstrate your structure. That number maps to a pilot. We're scoping a multi-team rollout under compliance. Do you want the pilot price or the rollout price? That is control. Our price reflects our team's seniority and values, and we really care, and we'll do a great job, and we hope you understand. That is explanation. One invites respect. The other invites a counteroffer that slices your spine into a smile. You control status, not with performance, but with scarcity and rhythm. You stop announcing your grind. The grind announces itself in outcomes delivered like clockwork. You post on schedule. You vanish by design. You become someone whose absence is informative, not suspicious. Explanations beg trust. Rhythm earns it. You control yourself. This is the deepest layer. The parts of you addicted to being perceived as good will scream when you remove their sugar. Explanations were how you earned love in rooms that weaponized niceness. The day you stop explaining is the day those rooms will call you cold. Let them. To a drowning person, the lifeguard who stops their flailing looks cruel for a second, then they breathe. If a room never breathes, if it only knows how to drink your oxygen, leave it. Control isn't about winning every environment. It's about selecting environments where your rules create mutual benefit instead of endless rescue. You worry that control will slow you down. It does the opposite. Explaining steals time you could use to design. Explaining spikes cortisol you could use to think. Explaining invites arguments you could route around with a clause. Control speeds everything because it reduces the amount of world you have to handle. It lowers the entropy of your day. You stop being surprised by chaos because there are fewer doors for chaos to enter, and the chaos that still slips through has to pass through rules that make it smaller. Now, the ugly part. The world will punish your first attempt. Your new no will be tested. Your first silent pause will be labeled manipulation. Your first policy will be called inflexible. Your first refusal to explain will be called arrogance. This is the tax on sovereignty. Pay it once. The second time costs less. The third time, the room starts explaining itself to you. Why it wants to change your rules, why it thinks you're different, why it needs you. This is the flip. The people who used to require paragraphs to accept your boundary begin to request your structure because it relieves them from their own chaos. Control is contagious. The strongest gift you can give a room is the example of a person with edges. But what about relationships? Don't I owe people explanations? You owe people clarity. You owe them kindness. You do not owe them access to your self-doubt. In intimacy, you trade context as an act of love, not as a technique to avoid consequences. I'm not explaining to be allowed, I'm sharing to be known. That sentence is your compass. If you're explaining to be allowed, stop. If you're sharing to be known, continue. Control and intimacy are not enemies. They are the only way either survives time. When boundaries are clear, affection can relax. When policies are visible, trust can grow without 1,000 check-ins. When you stop auditioning for acceptance, you can finally accept the person who actually chose you. Let's sharpen the blade. Replacing explanations with control requires new language. Memorize clean sentences. I'm not available for that. Full stop. That sits in phase 2. Full stop. I decide that on Thursdays. Full stop. Here's how this works. Then outline the system. Here are the options. Then present 3 choices with a default. That price is firm. Full stop. If we do X, we can also do Y. If not, we start on Z. If, then. I don't discuss scope in delivery. Full stop. I don't take unscheduled calls. Full stop. I don't explain boundaries. Full stop. Every time your mouth wants to add a softening clause, choose silence. Silence is not a cliff. It's a mirror. Let them see themselves in it. You'll be surprised how often people recalibrate without you lifting a finger. You'll be shocked by how often their urgent becomes next week works. You'll be relieved by how many problems never enter your life once your edges stop leaking. Control also means controlling your exposure to the incentives that breed explanations. Algorithms reward performance, not policy. Gossip rewards confession, not codes. Corporate ladders reward visibility, not architecture. If you keep playing on those fields, you'll feel the itch to narrate every move. Solve this by changing the game you score. Score your day by, did I keep my code, not did they clap. Score your week by, did my system hold, not did I get tagged. Score your month by, is the room easier to manage, not, do they think I'm nice. In a year, your reputation will change because your environment will. Proven fast. You want speed. You want this to work now, not after a pilgrimage. Here is the rapid protocol. 5 days, no speeches. Day 1, write your code on 1 page. 10 lines, what you always do, what you never do. Publish it to the people who must know, not as a manifesto, as operating instructions, no adjectives. Day 2, build your rails, calendar windows, response SLAs. Decision day, scope change clause, payment terms, put them in writing, share once, enforce forever. Day 3, replace paragraphs. Audit your last 20-cent messages. Rewrite every explanation as a rule or a question. Because becomes we do. Sorry, it's just that becomes I'm not available. Day 4, install silence. Pick 3 moments today where you would normally justify. Ask a clean question or say a clean no, then count to 5 in your head. Stare at your shoes if you must. Do not fill the air, watch them fill it for you. Day 5, prove by rhythm. Ship 1 outcome you promised on the exact day you said you would. No hype, no thread, quiet delivery. Put weight on the scale and walk away. Rhythm is control as sound. On day 6, people will act like the world ended because you stopped narrating theirs. It didn't. Their nervous system is trying to renegotiate your old contract. Decline. They will adapt or exit. Either way, your environment becomes true to your blueprint. A warning you must love. Control does not mean you will be liked more. It means you will be misunderstood by people who prefer soft edges they can press. Accept this as the price of freedom. The world does not need more explainers. It needs more architects, people whose presence reduces fog. Explanations reduce fog for one person for 5 minutes. Systems reduce fog for everyone for 5 years. Choose your legacy. There is also a temptation to approach control like a costume, stiff, performative, brittle. Don't. Control that cannot bend is domination by a nervous amateur. Real control can absorb impact without cracking because it was designed, not declared. You will change a rule when reality proves it wrong. You will adjust a policy when a better one emerges. You will apologize when harm occurs. But notice the order. You change rules, not because someone pushed, because you learned. You apologize for harm, not for existence. You remain human, not theatrical. This is how control survives fame, stress, conflict, and success. It's not a posture, it's a practice. Watch how quickly power finds you when you switch currencies. Explanations spend trust. Control earns it. Explanations buy temporary permission. Control builds permanent roads. Explanations ask for mercy. Control creates clarity. The world is starving for clarity. Become a source and you won't chase clients, friends, partners, or respect. You will allocate them. Consider the old myth. Hard work creates power. It creates usefulness. Power comes from leverage. Tools, terms, timing, and truth compressed into systems other people rely on. Explanations are hard work. Control is leverage. One person can answer 100 questions per day. One system can prevent 10,000 questions per year. You are not here to be the hero in someone else's inbox. You are here to move the geometry of your life so that your future children, your present team, and your own spine can stand up straight without asking permission. Start controlling. Start with your breathing rate in rooms that are designed to speed you up. Speak at your cadence. Watch how quickly the room changes tempo or reveals who can't operate without chaos. Start with your price. Quote it cleanly. Watch how quickly amateurs flee and professionals nod. Start with your boundaries. State them once. Watch who repeats themselves. They're telling you they can't hear rules. Believe them. Start with your projects. Scope them once. Watch who respects phase 2 and who tries to stuff it into today. Forget the speeches. The world doesn't change because you argued better. It changes because you formatted reality and enforced the format. You will still care. You are not turning to stone. You will still explain in the right contexts to the right people for the right reasons. You will share context with your team because context is oxygen for the competent. You will share feelings with your partner because intimacy without disclosure is a truce, not a bond. You will teach your kids the why because obedience without understanding breeds rebellion later. But outside the circles of trust and growth, the default returns: decide, document, deliver. No extras, no theater, no bloodletting to appease the gods of someone else's convenience. Listen closely to the quiet change that follows. People begin to present with more precision because they know you won't mop up their mess with a paragraph. Meetings end earlier because there is nowhere for confusion to hide. You feel less tired because you stopped narrating a movie the room is already watching. You notice more opportunities because your attention is no longer locked in courtroom defense. And the invitations you receive start to sound like this: we want your process. We trust your timing. We'll adapt to your schedule. That is control arriving. You didn't chase it. You became a place where it wants to live. One last myth to bury. If I don't explain, they'll assume the worst. Good. Let your enemy assume the wrong thing. Let your critic assume the lazy thing. Let your opportunist assume the easy thing. The people who matter will ask one clean question: how does your system work? You'll answer with a page, not a plea. They'll say yes or no. Both answers free you. Stop explaining. Start controlling. Say less. Codify more. Move slower, hit harder. Speak once and let your rules do the rest. Hard work will make you visible. Control will make you inevitable. And inevitability, not explanation, is what the world obeys. If you felt something loosen in your chest while listening to this, make a small promise your nervous system can remember under pressure. I don't explain boundaries. Write it once. Live it today. Replace 3 paragraphs with 3 policies before the sun goes down. Count to 5 after your next clean no. Ship 1 outcome exactly when you said you would, with no announcement and no apology attached. Then walk away. The room will adjust or it won't. Either way, you will feel heavier in the ways that matter. And when someone asks you for a speech in place of a standard, you'll have the calmest answer in the world. No. Here's how this works.